Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stubby! Hello! We're back. It's another Monday. I'm still Mickey, and we're joined again by good old Dave from Small Council Radio. Before we get stuck into anything else this week, though, we have to give Dave a congratulations. Congratulations. Hey, waving my hands in the air. Hey. For the birth of your 5th child, was it?
Yep.
Your 5th child this week. And I have to admit, I did forget, and I was going to check it before the show, and I did forget again. Am I right in saying it was a baby girl?
Yep. It was another little girl. So we got 4 little girls now and 1 boy.
Wow. I bet he feels absolutely outnumbered, along with yourself, actually.
Oh yeah.
Oh, but that's cool. That's absolutely epic. Right then. Song of Ice and Fire, the world of A Song of Ice and Fire. It's been a quiet week, right? It's been a relatively quiet week. There's not been a huge amount that's gone on, except you had an event, right, Dave?
Yep.
Yeah. And how did your event go?
It went well. Our first event where we put it on stats. One of our locals, Brian, he streamed it.
Mm-hmm.
We ended up getting 11, but that was even after like 4 last-minute cancellations. So, I think I was mentioned last episode that we get anywhere between like 6 and 14 or 6 and 12. So it was like on the higher end of our attendance, which was nice.
That's brilliant. That's brilliant to hear. It's always, I mean, yes, sure, getting more players is always better, right? Generally speaking, but whenever you're able to kind of like max out what you think is realistic, then that's a positive. And as you say, like 4 people dropping out literally last minute is unfortunate, is unlucky, but hey, it happens. Life happens. Cool. Well, we'll talk about that event in due course. The other piece of news that kind of hit the world, if you will, in the last week is that UK is finally getting a load of stuff. This is the Asmodee UK site. We've got Martells, we've got Sand Skirmishers, Dervishes, Dune Vipers, Outriders, Knights, and I assume the Martell starter, although it's not actually listed there, but I'm fairly sure it's listed elsewhere in this section, as well as Dothraki Outriders getting their own box. Oh, there you go, it's the starter right there. I'm just blind and an idiot. So all of this stuff coming to the UK, which is obviously really positive, and a lot of the kind of like providers for stock in the UK, so here Blackgate Games are saying that they're feeling optimistic that will be here early this week. That could mean literally that it is here, arriving in the UK, literally today/tomorrow, so that we could be seeing releases as soon as Wednesday, Thursday this week for a lot of the distributors in the UK. So yeah, that's a positive thing for gamers in the UK. And on the same note, I know I mentioned it in the title, but Canadia's got dragons, and those of you who have been long time A Song of Ice and Fire supporters will know the name Craig Grusselag-Norek, the Canadian who was desperately shouting "Where are his dragons?" for a good old month on the Facebook group about a year and a half ago. He has been over the moon, and he has got his dragons. So yeah, he's got his dragons, and that's always positive stuff. It's always a good thing when stock finally makes it to market. Have you played many Martells yet, Dave?
Quite a bit. Yeah, I took a break from them just recently, actually, just after Adepticon. I took a break from them. Just they take a lot of A lot of thinking.
I know you've obviously been painting them up and doing a lot of stuff with them. I just didn't actually ask you how much you've been playing of them. So have you tried every commander yet?
I have. I've only done Doran Commander twice so far, but otherwise I've run the other three quite a bit.
Mhm.
With probably Oberyn being my most picked.
Which you mentioned last week, your favorite person in the world. Cool. No, that's awesome. That is awesome. So people in chat, J-Bone, which will be Johnny Bull probably, can't wait to pick up his Martells from Bash on Friday. Yes, picking them up from Boards and Swords Hobbies, which is good to see has made a bit of a resurgence into the A Song of Ice and Fire scene. Bash in the UK was one of the major areas in Derby. Prior to COVID, but it never really recovered coming out of the back of COVID in the same way. I think the community there kind of died off a little bit, but it's good to see there's a bit of resurgence there. And I know Johnny's been trying to push for it a lot. That's good to see. And Carly's saying that they'd seen Cranagman for the first time. So that'll be the new Cranagman, I'm guessing, the Bog Devils. I'm lucky our clubmate Dan got his Bog Devils quite a while ago and he's making some conversions to them already. So, as Dan does, every single model is unique. He's a nutter. Anyway, so that's the good news, I guess. There is good news. There is always good news. So, go on, Dave. Tell us about this event you're at. The event that you. I'm just going to spoil it for everybody that you won with Free Folk. But go on, tell us what it was like. How'd your games go? What was the day like? All those kind of things.
Well, I didn't know I was going until literally 11:30 p.m. the night before.
Mhm.
I was kind of waiting for the permission from the wife, since the baby was only like 4-ish days old at that point. But I had kind of been busting my butt, ever since the baby was born, to kind of get her in a good mood to say yes, and she finally said it was all right. So got everything together. Had just literally finished painting all of the free folk I wanted to run, even though I didn't run. I only ran one list, all 3 games.
Oh, there it is. There's the admission of guilt. You only run one list. Oh.
Yeah, and it was the list that actually didn't need any painting. So, yep. So all the last minute painting I did leading up to it was all for, I shouldn't say all for nothing, but for the tournament it didn't end up mattering, because I think last episode I was talking about all the savages. I ended up only doing 2 units of them instead of 3, and then I jumped over to a spearwife unit to finish up.
I'm disappointed. I thought I was going to be promised 36 cave dwellers, and now I've only got 24 cave dwellers. Now I'm sad.
And 12 spearwives and 2 mammoths.
Oh, okay. The mammoths make up for it.
So, next on the list is those 8 bear riders, and then those savages.
Bear rider. I mean, I've had an interesting one, because it's interesting you mentioned bear riders, actually, because that's my only thing that I've not yet kind of like gone into the foray of trying to paint. You have to excuse me while I give the dog her dinner, because my partner is out and I'd forgot to do it before the show. Whoops. So yes, I've just started my bears, and I thought it would be a really, really clever and infinitely interesting idea to go for a dark grey with like a light blue mixed in, and it's just ended up with like literally dark grey bears, which would be very good for a like base coat if I wanted to go towards like a black bear or something like that, but actually useless going towards white because they just look far too dark. So yeah, that was my stupid mistake. But all my other ones are finished. Got my I need to put snow on the base is about the only thing I need to do, but I'll do that in the one go. I got Baroque's boar all done. The Shadow Cat done, who just needs gluing down properly. with added eagle. What else have I got done? I got my wolves done. That's what I did get done last week. My 3 wolves who, however much I try and get them to stand up, they never stand up. I hate the goddamn the wolf. So the wolf pack, right? You must have looked at doing Varamir's wolf pack, right?
Yeah.
The 3 wolves together in the way that they are look dumb as hell. I hate it.
Yeah, I'm not like a huge fan of it, and because I know you're kind of mentioning it last episode about the wolves, and then also the shadow cat.
Yeah, derpy as all hell. I hate this.
Yep. I got pretty lucky with my shadow cat. I was kind of in the same position where I was looking at it. I was like, I don't even know what to paint this thing. I don't know what to do. I was like, so I just kind of winged it, and the paint scheme saved it a little bit. Because I did similar to the image itself and gave it kind of these like thick looking stripes. So it almost looks like kind of two-tone between like a white, like a dirty white, and then like just like a more of like a light brown.
That's fair. I can see you sent me a picture of your Varamir, which I'll load up.
Yeah, mostly sending just the what the bear rider polar bear will look like, because I wanted it to be a little truer to like what real polar bears look like. I know it's not exact, but you know how real polar bears aren't like Snow White. You know, they're
slightly off color. You get yellow, right? Yeah.
So they're not like, the Varamir isn't yellowish, but it's more of like a dirty look to it.
Almost like so I use a lot of the game color range from Vallejo, and I found that their bone white is quite a nice kind of like effect. That's slightly off, but almost like a cream color, right? I guess you'd call it. But yeah, I found that so there's my Varamir. I've only done the fur, and I've looked at the fur afterwards and gone, that's far too grey. The rider's not done at all yet. But yeah, no, it's been fun. Been fun in games. Been learning. That's what I've been doing. Learning, and you need to learn in order to paint well. That's my message for today. But yes, go on then. So you painted up all these free folk, and then you didn't use them because you only used one list. You power gamer, right? That's what I've got to say.
Yeah.
Use the steer list as well, right? So let's have a look.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I think I pulled it up.
Triple Fen.
Yeah. So both of my lists were supposed to be themed in the sense that so my Styre list has almost as much auto hits as I can include, between 3 Thens with Hold the Line. Got Barak giving me a hidden traps, a Trappers giving me hidden traps. I got Lady Dala for hidden for some auto hits. Even Mance the Bard for auto hits. So it's just most of its damage is really just coming from these auto hits, and I don't even necessarily have to attack, depending on who you are, like what faction you're playing. And that's kind of a big reason why I chose it in all of my games. So my other list, the theme of it was kind of speed.
I mean, yeah, your second list is your Harmer list, right? Which is not so level speed.
Yeah. So yeah, because like my second list, I got Harma and some Savages, and then I got Egret and Lady Val for my 2 movement NCUs. Another unit of Savages, so I got 2 6 movement, or with Harma, the one is a 7 movement. I got Jarl to outflank a Chariot. So yeah, it was really trying to capitalize on speed. I just didn't end up facing a matchup I felt that my speed was going to matter as much. let's see. So round one, I ended up facing. There was a group of guys that came from Milwaukee area, which was awesome. Exchanged contact info. Now the group is like 4 or 5 people bigger, which is nice. But he was playing Targaryens. I think he ended up taking let's see, fifth.
Yeah, came fifth, I think.
And he, when I saw his list, I was like, all right, well, I almost feel like I have to run Styre because I didn't think my Harma list was going to be able to crack through the list that he ended up taking, which was the Swordmasters with Selmy, Swordmasters Grey Worm, Pikemen with Brazen Beast Captain, Freedmen, Jorah, Mary Mazdur, and I don't know how to say his name. I haven't got that one down yet. His Dar Zolorak.
There you go. At least
that's
how I pronounce it. Yeah.
So I was right after we picked lists. He picked that one. So I was like super. Even though like I was kind of looking for, because I knew in the later games the Styre list was the stronger list. So I knew as the day went on there was a less likely chance, because then you're facing better, better players, if they're getting wins. So when I picked Styre, I was like, all right, well, let's see how the day goes if another chance comes up to play Harma. But yeah, like I said, it paid off right in the beginning. He had me go first. So he was going, had the first turn in second round. He had marked Styre with Selmy. I had put Abel the Bard in Selmy. He marked him with a Knightly Vow, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
what I'm getting at.
Knightly Vow target choice.
And we're right across from each other, like the 2 units are. So I march up, he marches up. First thing he does, I don't know if you'd want to call it a YOLO, because it was only like a 3-up charge with a reroll, but he charges Styre, and I'm holding Then's Defiance. I actually drew into one of each of Styre's cards, and I already put the starter turn 1 on Styre, holding Final Strike and Then's Defiance. He charges in. He first takes 2 wounds off from hits from Abel from activating. I hidden traps, which makes him take another 4, and he takes another 2 there. He's already down a rank. He's already charged into my line of guys. He then takes off like 6 guys from the attack. I play Final Strike, and he loses another 4. And that's literally the first action of round 1, and he's down to 1 rank with his commander unit.
Oh dear.
Yeah, it was. I felt kind of bad because when you're in that situation where you think you're going to kind of charge in and obliterate something, and you kind of do a lot of damage, but a lot of retribution effects just put you in that situation where now it's their turn, and so all I had to do was I charged in his flank with some raiders, with a raid leader, and finished him off that way.
Yeah, that'll do it. Yeah.
7 dice in the flank on Swordmasters. It's not amazing odds, but decent. So I was able to do the 4 wounds needed. Or no, sorry, I didn't need 4 wounds. I popped Abel, putting him to 3 wounds. Putting a vulnerable token on him, and then charging him in the flank,
which would be a killer. Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people sleep on Abel. I know he's 2 points. I know maybe he's not the best if you're talking like the biggest tournaments out there, but if you can put it in those semi-fragile offensive units, it really is going to pay. Especially because you can combine it with a hidden traps. I mean, that's a lot of hits if you're at full ranks for both effects. That's what, seven hits, especially if you have a vulnerable on them. That means even though you'd only be able to use the vulnerable on one or the other, more often than not, they're going to roll, if they have a 4-up save, they're going to roll one set of dice above average and one set of dice below average, and you just use the vulnerable on the one that rolled above average, and now you're looking at probably 4 or 5 wounds before they've done anything.
I mean, depending on the armor saves as well, it's kind of crazy because if you're looking at like a 5+ save, there's a good chance that you'll do 2 wounds or even 3 wounds with Able. Good chance. And then you're talking about, well, the perfect opportunity for hidden traps is when your opponent is on 9 wounds because you're still rolling 4, but you only need to do 1 to take them down a rank, and there's a good chance you'll eat right into. You can strip 4 models off, and all of a sudden, like, it doesn't happen this way, but if you've activated on a 5+, 6+ save, and your unit has taken 7 wounds from like doing a march action, it's like, oh shit, I might just die the moment I activate next turn. Although you can't actually straight up die from the next stun, but if you're at 5 wounds. But yeah, it doesn't put you in a good situation. By no means are you looking at that situation going, "This is great." So yeah, it's very punishing. The only reason I don't think you see Able more is unfortunately because now I used to run Able in my Mag the Mighty list, because you could strip away the opponent's ability to play something like a precision card or something like that on a charge against Mag, and it would actually give Mag or 1/1 quite a lot of protection. I think now the problem is that for 2 points, let's face it, in a lot of lists you're probably taking Varamir now, that's the ultimate truth, even though I personally don't.
Yeah.
And for 2 points, that's a Shadow Cat. And the Shadow Cat's an activation, and need I have the whole conversation around activations being important. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. You can't do anything about that really. But yeah, no, I think Abel's fine. I think Abel's fine. Oh, you know what? I'm actually still very surprised at though.
What?
I don't think we see enough Turncloaks, Lannister Turncloaks, because I think those guys are legit.
Yeah, I agree. I think pretty much all of the attachments that go in the enemy's unit.
I'm not 100% sure on all of them.
Maybe not Jackin. Not unless like you run a specific. I have like a list built, or you have Vargo Commander, like something where you can purposely snipe out their Jackin to trigger it.
Mm-hmm. Which used to be much more common with something like Expert Duelist now, right? But like with the change to Expert Duelist, it actually made like, and I'm not sitting here and saying that like Starks had a lot of access to Expert Duelist, but the point is it made stuff like this, where killing a specific attachment for a benefit was a lot worse. Like it's a lot worse now, which is a bit of a shame. A bit of a shame, really, because it just means that, in fact, do Starks have Expert Duelists now I say that? They don't, do they?
No, they got to take it through Vargo.
You got to go through the weird Vargo memery.
So, yeah, I have, I'd say, Jackin is kind of not really one I ever run unless it's with like Vargo Commander. But I do like Jaime for Lannisters. I know you need the crown and everything to kind of activate the ability, but again, I'll kind of try to capitalize on his abilities by running some other things that have minus to hit, whether it be the, what are they called, the mummers, skirmishers, or whatnot. So
I just
Yeah.
realised. Can you? Because obviously there's the memes where you put Howland on a unit. Oh my god, yes. Yes, there it is, isn't it? You run Roderick Commander with the Spender Vulnerable and give them -1 to hit and they take wounds back for every miss or whatever, hits back. Is it Combat Pro? Not Combat Press, it's the other one. I actually can't remember what it's called now.
Press the advantage, maybe?
No, not Press the Advantage. It's the other one, I think. Because someone else has it as well. Martial Superiority. Yeah, I thought that's what I was saying. I was thinking of Martial Training, but Martial Superiority. So you run Martial Superiority with a unit of Bloody Mama Skirmishers with Howland NCU. So now the opponent needs as -3 to hit. You then give them like Sirio Farrell for -4, and then you play doubles with a Lannister ally and give your opponent Jaime in the unit attacking them, and the unit now has -5 to hit. I hit on 1s. No, you don't. You hit on 6s.
Yeah, I've tried making similar lists to that, or even just, or you save a point on, if you don't want to have to rely on drawing the card for Roderick, you just run Holland Commander in the unit.
Yeah.
And then you can, even though you can't max all of it on one unit, you run Holland in one unit, and then you run Sirio in a different unit. And then you can run for 2 points you run Rob, and then you can get Greywind in there. You can get quite a bit in Starks if you really dedicate the points.
Yeah, and then you get shot and you don't get any of the benefits, and you get sad.
Yeah. Then you get that one matchup. You're like, all right, what are you playing then? Well, it's like it's like 3 ranged units. Oh,
triple Lightbringers.
Yeah.
Oh shit, my morale's like 7. Yeah, no, I mean the meme of this is the meme of the no hit Starks never really took off, but it's the fact that Lannisters do it in a really roundabout way as well, and it's all Jaime. Jaime's commander with the Counter Strike and Disrupt, and then Jaime enemy attachment coming with the Vengeful Captive, which is kind of like the same ability in a roundabout way. But yes, enemy attachments, Abel, Jaime, this bloke Turncoats, and to some extent Jaqen are definitely underrated, not taken as much as you would think that they should be. But yeah, it's test them out. If you haven't tested them out, you should test them out at home. Worth doing. So go on.
But yeah, so that game, it was Dark Wings, Dark Words. I did forget to mention that after this had happened, the objective that was revealed was kill the enemy commander. So I did get extra points for that.
Oh dear.
Just kind of salt on the wound, I suppose. Because at that point, I could kind of tell that he's a little, frustrated, and you kind of get put in one of those situations where you don't really know what to say. You try to salvage the game in the sense of you don't it's the first game. You don't want that, especially if it's not some huge event. But really, I guess this applies for any event. You don't want them going on the rest of the day and hating the whole day because of one thing that happened. But sometimes people get into a funk, and the only way they're going to get out is by themselves. They're only gonna. It's going to be completely up to them if they get out of the funk. Which seemed like he did, but I could tell in our game he was just like, well, it's pretty much over, which I mean was and wasn't true. I mean, the victor points was I think 10-0, but he really started to eat away at some units, and I thought for a second, I was like, well, you know what, he keeps doing this and it's going to turn around, but I was able to just kind of again eat away at what units he had left with my auto hits.
It's more than just that as well, right? With Darkwing Start Words, I really like Darkwing Start Words as a game mode, but I think Darkwing Start Words and Winds of Winter, which are the two secret mission game modes, both have the same issues, but they manifest in completely different ways, right? In scoring on Darkwing Start Words is heavily based around who has more activations, because you have more control over the missions, and you can dictate how and what is scored a lot more. So if you have less activations, I feel like you have to push a lot more on the board and kill more to lower the activation count, but also to make it harder for your opponent to score. Whereas if you've got more activations, you can kind of like, well, I'll just cycle through the deck with my NCUs and my commander, and oh look, there's control middle objective, and I can just walk onto the middle objective at the end of the round and score 2 points. 3 points, because it's Darkwing Start Words, and it's like, yeah, kill it, like, yeah, you mentioned there, kill enemy commander. Well, I just scored 3 points because I was able to control that objective being there.
Yep.
And so as a result, I always find that Darkwing Start Words, especially, is a very high swing, high variance game mode. Like, you always see typically quite high points. If someone's winning a little bit, they can typically win a lot. It's games where it's quite close, where you can tell that either nothing has died and both players are playing very cautiously with roughly equal activations, or one player's going absolutely ham, and the other player's desperately going, oh shit, I'm going to die, I'm going to have to get some points before I lose. And it's like a scrabbling for points. But yeah, you very rarely see kind of like close results often. And on Winds of Winter, right, and on the flip side, completely opposite problem, is Darkwing Start Words can score rapidly. I have legitimately seen tournament games of Darkwing Start Words. Admittedly, there may have been a bit of a skill mismatch, but I have seen games of Darkwing Start Words end in 1 or 2 rounds. Legitimately, like someone reaching above 10 points in like 2 rounds, which is just nuts. Like games shouldn't score that quickly. At least not in my head, they shouldn't.
Well, especially back like when this version of it first came out, that was my biggest criticism, was because you could your commander scored 2 points, and I had all my games with Darkwing Start Words, none of them ever lasted past turn 4. Ever, and most games would all end on turn 3 just because of how much scoring there is between killing units, being on objectives, and doing mission cards.
I think legitimately I'd seen someone go 5-1 up on round. It wasn't even round 1. It was on round 1 they controlled the middle objective for 2 points and went 2-0 up. And I think they got a kill in round 2 and went 3-0 up. No, they lost a unit going 2-1, but it was the Retribution card was out at the time. And so they then killed the opposing unit for 3 victory points. They're now winning 5-0. And at the end of the round, middle objective worth 2 was still on the board, and the commander was sat on another objective, and they legitimately won the game at the end of round 2, 10-2. Like,
I actually
that's so dumb.
I'll mention it maybe after we talk about this tournament, but one of my very first game in the championship tournament for Adepticon, it was Darkwing Start Words was the first mission, first round, and something very similar happened, and thankfully, and again, I'll explain all of that. I don't want to jump from tournament to tournament and confuse people. So that game ended 10-0, which I was surprised. Like I said, I had, generally I like to ask people I'm not familiar with. I'm like, hey, how experienced are you, or like how long have you been playing? Because it kind of gets me an idea. Because generally I'll run one list it's not like super competitive, but it's stronger. It's I think clearly the stronger list. And then I run one that I think is strong. My second list will still be strong, but it'll be more friendly if I need to use it against newer people. And so I had asked him. He said he'd been playing a while, and like I said, all these guys were kind of new to me from a different game store. And it's like, okay, so I can kind of run either list, but it's I even mentioned to him after the match, I'm like, this is just a really bad matchup for you. Everything in his army was a 4-up save or 2 flimsy solos that my auto hits just eat through. If you don't have like high armor or something similar, then the auto hits just punish you.
Yeah.
All right.
Punishing list in that regard. Yeah. Go on.
So yeah, you're good. Second game was Fire and Blood against Brian. I saw his lists, and again, I was like, I almost guarantee he's gonna run dragons, and against seeing what my 2 lists were, and I just knew I had to run my Styre list. I just needed those retribution effects to punish the dragons. So this one, he was whooping me all game for the most part. I was trying to castle only because I didn't want him to use that maneuverability and just fly over all my units and get into my rear and then force me to have to do a bunch of shenanigans since I have no cav. I have no I don't have Egret or Lady Val. I don't have nothing. Like my force is about as immobile as it gets for this game. So, but that was kind of my mistake. Because the first 2 rounds was me trying to reposition and just get into a better like castle to kind of wait until he comes in. But he started putting extra points on my raiders with just in range to put extra points on my raiders, and was just crown zapping them and eating away that way. And I'm like, well, if he kills even 1 unit, he'd just run away and then win. So I knew I had to go in. So then I started. I used diversion tactics for the free after being attacked to get a free maneuver. Started taking the free maneuver to get everything back into the fight because I was kind of like 3 of my units were kind of out of the fight. It was going back and forth. Finally killed a dragon, one that I had marked, which helped out. That gave me, and I killed it with. I want to say
marked unit.
No, I didn't. So yeah, it was just the 3 points, right? So it's 1 for the unit and then 2 for being marked. So by round 6, because we actually made it to round 6, because we're both more experienced players and going kind of fast through our actions. It is 8-3. Him. He's winning 8-3. Yeah.
Oh, I think he told me. Yes, I think I heard the rest of the story. Go on. This is good.
All game, I'm just marking Danny. Like, she has 4 victory points on her, and I'm just like, I got her down to like 2 wounds like 3 times because she had Abel. Obviously, it's the only unit I could put him in. I popped him for one last like hurrah and just couldn't do it. Just over and over, got him down really low. Well, thinking back, I think it was just a misplay. Technically on both of us, but because he was like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna run away. So he retreated with his, because all I had left was Styre and Thens and a Raider unit with Raid Leader. I didn't see any Endless Hordes in the first game, and I drew into Endless round 6. I drew into 3 new cards. So it was Endless Horde, and Surrounded and Exposed. So I'm like, all right, he went first. I'm like, got any start turns? No. Endless Horde on the Raider unit that's about to die. Okay, well, I'm not going to attack that unit. He does something. I think he's like, okay, I'll just retreat my dragon because each dragon is engaged with each unit, and then Danny's kind of hidden behind both of those units, or both of the dragons that are in combat. I'm like, okay, start of my turn, surround and expose. Let's put a vulnerable on your dragon that you didn't retreat with. All right, I do something, I don't know. His turn. All right, you got anything? Nope. And his horde again. He's like, well, now that I don't want to kill anything anymore, let's just run away. So he did his best to run away, and then all he had left was one NCU, and the only spot open was the crown. Mm-hmm. So made the mistake, both of us technically, because he asked me, he's like, do I have to pick someone with the crown if I take it? I'm like, I don't know, what's the wording say? Because he had like a cool 3D printed tactics board. Mm-hmm. Looked it up, and he's like, one enemy combat unit takes a panic test. I'm like, it sounds like you have to. He takes the spot, and his option is to zap the raiders, which have 4 models on it. So if I roll a 3, I die. If I fail and roll a 3, I die. Or to zap Styre, which at this point has 2 wounds, but Iron Resolve. So if I roll a 3, I die. But obviously I have a better morale. So he's like, well, I don't want to kill anything. So he goes for Styre, and Styre dies. Gives him 1 point, puts him to 9. I then get a Raider unit, unactivated, long range. I then charge the side of Danny, who's already used Set for Charge and Shield Wall, and kill her, and get 7 points and win 10-9.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's nuts. And yeah,
so
could have just passed with the NCU, right?
Yep. Yeah, that's something.
He is right. You're both technically right. If he does take the zone, he does have to crown zap something. So, yep. But he can, of course, choose to forego taking the zone and pass, thus keeping Styre alive. Oh.
It was one of those things, because I drove my nephew wanted to carpool, so on the way back we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, I think he could have just passed, like laid him down and not did anything. So I got lucky. That was super lucky on my part. 3 dragons, definitely nowhere. And the more I think about it, definitely nowhere near as strong as they used to be, but they're definitely a viable option. I think. Again, only being 7 points, especially if you're going to face a bunch of infantry units where you're just. That was the other thing. Every single the first like 4 dragon attacks were all max damage. He rolled a 3 every time, and over the course of the entire game, he rolled a 3 on all dragon attacks except for 2 of them, in which he rolled 2s. So it was just like swaths of my guys are just being taken off every single attack. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that one was super close. And then last one was against another new player from the new gaming store. He was playing Baratheons. This one, I was surprised at the list he ran. He ran his Courtney list, which only has 6 combat units.
Oh, wow. That is a list I have... Wow.
So it's actually his second list is why I didn't run Harma. I didn't want it because he had Champions of the Stag and Riders of Highgarden in that list, and I didn't want to outflank, a unit and have one of these units just, charge into me and decimate my unit. So I was like, you know what, Styre it is. As disappointed as I was not to run Harma, but when he revealed that, I'm like, oh, this is going to be bad. Because, again, Dervishes, 4-up save, Stag Knights, 4-up save, Sentinels, 4-up save. You got the Rose Knights with a 3-up, so that's something. But, so I put Abel the Bard in the Stag Knights to, because unlike Giants who have, like, the legit Giant rule, and have all hits no matter what it is, Resilience Order only affects attacks. Yeah. So all these auto hits from everything that I'm doing gets by resilience. So by the end of the game, his Stag Knights, I believe, did not die, but he literally had one wound left, and I had never attacked them.
Oh wow! Just from literally auto
Yes.
damage and stuff.
Yep. And then same thing with like the Sentinels. I did so many auto hits, and then they finally just kind of evaporated from a Then supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
It was just what was that score? It was 10-2. I just was able to. That was another reason I chose my my Styre list. Overall, like I know I have the Harma list has the two savages in there with the 4-up morale, but overall I liked the morale of, because it was Feast for Crows, I liked the morale of my Styre list a bit better, because I got Barak in one of the Thens making me a 4-up. I got Styre giving me a 5-up with Iron Resolve. You also
kind of want to lose a unit early in that game mode, don't you? Really?
Yep.
So being able to like sack a unit of like raiders and just be like, all right, go die. You know, create another corpse pile for me. Thank you very much.
Yep. That actually ended up being how I got an early lead. Was I drew an Endless Horde right away, and I just threw it on my raider unit with Raid Leader, and I purposely charged because he had charged Styre with his Sentinels. Because I moved Styre up in a position, because my Barak and Thens was all the way to the right, holding that objective. He charged me and actually took it away with the Rose Knights. I then, instead of charging his flank with Styre, I just moved up into a position to block a Sentinel charge. He knew that I wasn't going to let him Sentinel charge, so he just went ahead and charged Styre, who had already activated. Well, this opened up his flank. I then charged my Raider unit into his flank to do some damage to the Sentinels, while revealing my flank to his Lysine, or his what were they? Stormcrow Dervishes. And with their ambush and everything, he actually killed the unit, which is what I was hoping for. It created a corpse pile. Threw the corpse pile on my end. I put the new unit right in front of the corpse pile, unactivated. Now they're within 12 of the Thens with Barak, and I had a regroup and reform, put 4 back in, auto hits to withhold the line into the Rose Knights, just enough to take off a rank. And now I attack. I did like 1 wound, but didn't matter. I had more ranks. I took the objective back. I then moved on to the objective that was created by the Raiders with the new Raider unit, picked it up. He, only having 4 combat units, had to leave the one side of the board open, so my other Raider unit just was camping that one. So round 2? Had all 3 tokens, so 3 points right away. And his, obviously the unit he killed was the Raiders, so it didn't give him any points. So it was already kind of looking a bit grim with, I think at that point his Sentinels were down to 1 rank, his Rose Knights were half health, and his Stag Knights were down 1 rank because of just auto hits. And yeah, again, the auto hit, my list is definitely not some amazing list that's going to be good against everything, but against certain things, like the amount of auto hits it does will really punish any player, especially if you can't start to eat through the Thens and they start doing all these hold the lines with hidden traps. Because can't tell you how many times I'll get onto an objective, activate, do like 4 or 5 auto hits to you, and then just choose to retreat. Why? Because now you're able to be hit by all of my hidden traps again. I just retreat, count as controlling the objective. You want to charge in. All right, you charge in. Hidden traps, take more hits. You do your damage. I am now I'm now engaged. I now activate. I now hidden traps, or not hidden traps. Sorry, hold the line, and then I choose just to retreat. And I just keep doing that if I need to, and all the while doing plenty of damage to you in return.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like this concept. It's certainly something that I've been a big fan since the changes to Trappers season 1, and to some extent to Thens as well. Just being able to, where possible, get those auto hits. But yeah, no, it's a cool list. I like it. I like the idea anyway. There are of course changes I would make because I'm a horrific person who plays very set things like 3 NCUs and stuff like that. But that doesn't mean the list is bad by any stretch. No, cool. That's awesome. I did briefly show the content there as well from Wardens of the Midwest. So this is Edgehopper, who I believe is Tigerhawk in chat. His kind of like channel that he started to try and promote and to try and show some of the games that are being played. And he did stream all 3 games, I think, from that he played in across that weekend. And those will all be available on the Wardens of the Midwest channel on YouTube. So if you want to go watch them back, you can see the games and see the kind of fun that was had.
You can actually, my second and third game were both streamed, so you can see both of those kind of happen. If you go watch those, my first game, no, it wasn't. I forget who was streamed the first game.
Mm-hmm. I think it was. He did post it up. They're all there anyway. If you do want to check them out under live, you can see them all there. But yeah. Oh, cool. Absolutely cool. All right then. So, good event. Come away with the win. Happy. Did you enjoy yourself? That's what matters.
I did. It ran a little later than we had hoped, but not too bad. Because they had asked everyone. Because the way we run it is we try to end at the same time no matter what. So it's if we have 8 or less players, we'll do 3 rounds at 2 hours each. If we have 9 or more players, we'll do 4 rounds at an hour and a half each. That way, we're still ending at the same time, but we're doing the appropriate number of rounds. We're just going to have to, obviously, 90 minutes to do a game can be rough, but, a lot of times that's better than 1, going super late, but 2, having multiple undefeated can sometimes be can make some people sore, especially if they're doing really well, but then they lose on, tiebreakers just by a little bit. So.
That's cool. That's still cool. I mean, I've got very distracted there, I have to admit, Dave, because I was looking at all the lovely painting as well, which I know that was rewarded. So we'll very quickly show you these. If you haven't seen these are on the main Discord as well. We're on through the solo miniatures as well. Because there was, which is good to see in a small competition like this, is that it was still doing a painting competition, which I think is always the right thing to do. I think supporting all aspects of the hobby is always the right thing to do in any event. So even small events supporting painting, I think, is a real positive. I like that Quaith, and I quite like the newt. The newt's not finished, obviously, with the base, but I quite like the newt effect it's got going on. Once that's finished with a nice base, that'll look spot on, and the Quaith's nice there. Someone's gone for a classic purple Illyrio. You see these every now and then crop up, classics, and that'll be a Marjorie Terrell. We've got Aaron Greyjoy, and is this your? Hang on, that did not load. Is this your Jon Snow?
Yep, I actually ran. I wanted to kind of test him out. So I had put him in the Harma list with in the Savages with a with Harma's Bannerman to kind of test it out.
That's cool. You didn't use it though.
No, yeah.
Should've done it
But
just for the names.
next tournament though, I'm probably gonna I'll more than likely I'll run Free Folk again, and I plan to run the Harma list probably exactly the way it is. I might tweak it, but and then the second list instead of Styre with the auto hits theme, I'm probably gonna run like a Rattle Shirt themed Bone Lord's Chosen, Fowler's Bone, and a Bear Rider.
There it is. That's what you want. That is what you want. I've got some dreams about. I have some terrible, terrible dreams about that list working and how it works and what I want to achieve from it. And it is all based around a skin changer being in the list and actually getting a skin changer to work and do this awesome thing that I think is really stupidly dumb. But I really want it to work, and I think it'll be hilarious if it does. But yeah, we also see some absolute Chad, and I'm gonna have to call them out by name. Someone ran Robert Strong, I'm guessing. Let's have a look. Which was it? Brutus? Was it this guy? He's the only Lannister there, so I'm gonna guess he ran in one of his lists. Oh no, he didn't run it. Oh, now I'm sad. Now I'm sad. Oh, I thought someone had actually run Robert Strong in a tournament game, in which case I would have been like, well done you, because that is bravery. That is not something I would ever recommend to anybody in a competitive nature, but fun to see when it does arrive. Units as well, pretty strong. This is the Greyjoys. Those Greyjoy, whoever's painting those Greyjoys has done a really nice job. As I say, it's a shame the basing isn't done, but the rest of that unit is lovely. That's really nice. Got a really nice green on the capes as well, I think.
Yeah, that'd be Patrick from our group. He's actually relatively newer. I want to say he's only been playing like half a year, but he's been doing really well, and he's really been, he's one of those players that he really absorbs a lot of the info you give him, while not like fully giving into just everything. He still plays to his strengths. He'll take in all this info and adapt it to his play style. Because you have some people who will just kind of absorb everything like a sponge, but then they kind of turn their play style into whatever it is that they've been told. But Patrick, he's definitely been becoming really good.
That's cool. On the painting note as well, I'm going to have to show people this abomination, which you probably saw there in the corner. This absolute abomination that someone has painted up for Brazen Beasts. They've gone for like a patchwork effect, which actually works really well with the kind of stones done in the same effect as well. This is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, I believe those are Brian's. So he was really rushing to get those done. I think last minute to have them for the tournament to try them out.
I really want to see an entire Targ army like this. Just because I think it would be an absolute abomination to play against. What the hell is going on? There's so many colours. And just be like, haha. Brazen Beasts everywhere. Oh, that would be great. I think that I absolutely love it, because this isn't like this. What I like about this is that this isn't a traditional paint scheme. It's a bit like Luke's what he's done with his Targs. I like stuff where people have taken a brief and they've made something for a brief that they want to make. And these are clearly that he wanted to go with something outlandish that's going to be a bit garish. It's really going to stand out. It's going to look really kind of like brazen, quite literally, on the table. And he's nailed the brief. Like for me, that brief. He's nailed it. They stand out. You will. I was scanning down the Discord, just looking at the images, and that was the first one I stopped at and went, "Whoa, what's going on there?" I'm gonna have to have a closer look at that because it caught my eye, and that's what you want. You know, a good paint job is something that does catch your eye, that makes you go, "Wow, that looks awesome." And there are so many people around the world, and especially Carlos out of the world, that would look at that and cry and give it like big fat zeros because he hates it, and that makes the paint job better. Anything that Carlo hates, rocks, add those in. Colors that stand out, add those in. What else does Carlo hate? Carlo hates most things. Just add most things. There you go. Yeah. As long as it doesn't look like Lannisters, I think he probably hates it, so it's fine. So no, that's awesome. That's awesome. And yeah, I mean, obviously, any event running is a real positive, and that is absolutely awesome to see and hear about as well. And it seems like people enjoyed the event as well. I've heard a few people say that did attend that they really enjoyed it, which is good. And it just goes to show that, you know, we talked about a lot of big events, Adepticon, smashing previous records set in the US, the LGT obviously last year, the French Nationals, even the Polish National events last year, all absolutely smashing out numbers. Valerian Crown this year doing very well. And we're talking about like record-breaking numbers, but actually like small events can still be just as effective and are the lifeblood of the game, right? You know, we don't get to those big events if small events like this aren't encouraging growth, encouraging players, encouraging stuff like this to happen. Is square one of the overall player base growing. And so this has got to be encouraged, I think, and it's good to see that it is. You know, you mentioned there about you met up with a bunch of guys that you'd never met before from Milwaukee, and
Yep.
that is game growth. You know, that is literally game growth. And that was one event, and you've met 5 players you've never met before, and a new community that you can, you know, encourage and that can grow and can come to future events, do some stuff there. More players to the game, and more players to the game is more good. That's my good English for today.
Yeah, and I would say to anyone out there kind of feeling a little discouraged, you know, just keep at it. I mean, my group, even though it's, you know, probably like 25 to 30 people strong, and like I mentioned before in the last episode that, you know, sometimes getting them all together is like herding kittens, but, you know, groups definitely had its highs and lows. And when you're at kind of your lows, because a lot of people either moved on or just whatever the case may be, just keep pushing it. You know, if you're like me and you have a lot of confidence in this game, you know, no game is perfect, but I'm confident that you know, if I can get people to even just try it, that's all it takes a lot of the times. And then consistency. I've talked about this in an episode or two on Small Council Radio, that even on days where you're like, man, I don't really want to go tonight, you know, I'm just kind of burnt out. I would say if you're like truly burnt out, you really need a break. That's different. But, you know, if you're just kind of like on the fence, I'd say go. Consistency of a group is arguably like the number one thing that will keep your group together, keep it going, because you know, when people start to see that no one's ever showing up, or they have to face the same 1 or 2 people every week, you know, they kind of get bored of it. They'll move on. There's way too many games nowadays that it's too easy to move on to a group that actually shows up. So that's would be kind of be my advice, is that, you know, if you have like a dedicated day of the week that everyone meets and you're also free that day, I'd make it a point to try to go, maybe not every single week, but as much as you possibly can.
I've got a bit of a loaded question for you, Dave.
Yep.
Okay. So Dan McDonald in chat says we have 4 players and have the same issues. But what do you do if your gaming group is toxic and can't hold on to new players? What would your advice to Dan be?
I guess it would come down to, are we talking, like, is it legitimately the group, or is it 1, maybe 2 people, and the other people kind of just, because they're friends, I think there's like a saying, you act like the average of the 5 closest people to you. So if you, I would say if it's the entire group, I think a discussion needs to be had. It may be an awkward one, but I mean, if the game's never going to grow because of it, it's a discussion that has to happen. If it's not a group and it's mostly just 1, maybe 2 people, I would say maybe talk to the people that it's not stemming from. See if maybe it's because sometimes it could be you. I'm gonna throw that out there. Sometimes you just have a different play style. Let's say you're super casual, and the other people are like hardcore tournament players, and some people can't turn that off. Like some people go into every single game with the mindset of a casual, no matter if it's a tournament game. And some people, no matter the game, go into it thinking it's like tournament or tournament prep. Some people can't turn that off. And I say that because I can't tell you how many times that I'm in a tournament, and even if it's, it could be a local tournament, or it could be like I've had that literally said to me at like bigger events like AdeptCon or Gen Con that it's just a game, or it's I'm just here to have fun sort of talk. And yeah, of course we're all here to have fun, at least I would hope, but you kind of have to gauge like when something's a tournament with things on the line, and when something's just a tournament with prize support, and when something's a casual game. I like to think, I could be wrong, but I like to think that I'm really good at turning that off. Like I said, I usually run 1 list of my 2 geared more towards newer or casual players. When I do like a local event, I avoid like the super overpowered stuff, so to speak, at my local events. I mean, for the longest, I played for Free Folk for I think 1 event when they were like at their peak, and then I was like, yeah, never again. And then it wasn't until all the nerfs that I finally brought them back out to my local. And
healthy, definitely.
So I would say, yeah, the conversation just kind of needs to be had, and I would just talk to them. If it's the group, then you just kind of have to talk to them, maybe as a group, or maybe if you're more comfortable with it, start with the person that you're the closest with, and be like, look, we need to do something about, retaining players. And one thing important that I've learned, if you're going to talk to them about it, don't talk about it in like an accusing way. Don't be like, you need to do this and you need to do that. Be like, use phrasing like, I think we as a group, because it'll come off a lot less as like an attack or like a cornering, and you'll be including yourself in this. What I think we need to do. We need to look at, we've had these players all kind of come in, and now they don't want to come back because of they've kind of felt like this. I would even get a list of like maybe like 3 or 4 of the most recent people you've had that have left, And I would contact them. I'd be like, hey, just wondering if you're gonna come back, if you wanted to get some games in.
Mm-hmm.
And if they say no, if they give you if they're like, yeah, I'm just not really into it, I didn't really have fun, or whatever the case may be, ask them for their feedback. Hey, what could we do better to include you that would make you feel more comfortable coming back? And this will kind of be a double a double, like two birds with one stone. Not only will you be able to maybe get that person back in by changing some things if it's obviously reasonable, but you'll also know what you can bring up to the group and be like, hey, this is coming from others, and I'm not accusing anyone. I'm just saying that I've talked to a lot of the people that we've had that have kind of left and won't come back, and this is kind of their feedback, and then kind of make it like a group discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I think from there, as long as they're reasonable people, and you present it reasonably and not as some coming off as like an argument or accusations, I think you'll be able to find some common ground. I'd even set up some like house rules, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be a house rule, like where like it's literally not allowed, but more of like a code or guideline that okay, we're the best players here. We need to set some kind of ground rules where let's not bring these things that are just going to crush people, or like kind of like what I do is run one list. That way, if you face one of the players that is experienced and can handle themselves, okay, you run that list. But if you're playing a newer player, you run the other list. And I think that will help a ton.
Yeah, it's really so. The reason I said that was a bit of a loaded question for you, Dave, and I do actually think your advice there is really strong, and I do appreciate that. Is that Dan is the guy from mine and Carlo's playgroup, and he clearly thinks that we have a toxic playgroup. No, we are who we are. We have a much deeper issue, which is there aren't that many gamers in our area. And Dan has sent me an independent message saying that he's making him rethink his life choices. So yeah, there you go. That's why me and Carlo don't have anyone in our playgroup. We're terrible human beings. If anyone's ever met me and Carlo in real life, everyone knows that statement is pretty much factually true.
So when he talks to the 4 people that have come and gone, they'll be like, yeah, just get rid of Carlo and Mickey and we'll come back. Then they all just as a mob, they'll kick you out. And
okay. Turns out, guys, we're not very nice human beings. Oh well. Anyway, right. The other thing I said we'd do is I said we'd have a little look at some of the online stuff that's been going on. It's been the TTS Song World. Pardon me. TTS Song World Teams event that's been going on, which has been played. Started up the other week. We're a couple of games in. How many games in? So we're 8 games in so far, of the 25 in the first round, and a lot of people. I was surprised. A lot of people are really behind this event. I have to admit, it's not something that I don't get behind it in the same way a lot of other people do. But a lot of teams have been like really kind of like bringing out the big guns, including having like qualifiers as to who can actually play in the event and represent their teams and represent their countries, which fair enough if that's the case. But yeah, I can't say my personal investment is that big. But that's actually partially down to a similar problem that Carlo mentioned previously himself, in that TTS events just aren't my thing anymore, really. I don't mind playing games on TTS, but I don't like playing event games on TTS. and it sounds really odd, but like I like to commit to time to play a game when I want to play one, and I always feel that like playing a tournament game on a weekly basis, it almost feels like a chore. And that's not to say that my opponents could be the same opponent, literally the same person, the same opponent. I played Jordan Abiscius this week, and he was absolutely. Jordan's a lovely guy, right? Jordan's absolutely wonderful guy, and he's a pleasure to play against. And I watch a lot of his streams anyway in the background when I'm painting and stuff. He's just I enjoy him as a person, generally speaking. But I dislike having to play a tournament game online, even though it's the same as the others. And I think that's just because of somewhat time limits, somewhat kind of like strain on having to organize it, this, that, and the other. But yeah, can't say that I enjoy it in the same way that I do kind of like playing over the board, which I still thoroughly enjoy, like massively so. So I think nothing will ever remove that feeling, probably, playing over the board. But yeah, that being said, it's going kind of like on and off, kind of well. I think we've got and we will stop in and have a little look at the team rankings of how the teams are doing. I believe as of earlier today, it's midday today, it was there. People who don't know, there are 10 teams facing off. This week is Germany versus the US. Germany versus the UN. The UN is comprised of kind of like a bunch of countries like Belgium, the Netherlands, and I believe they've got a French player on there as well. But Germany's 6 and the UN have got 2. Hungary is beating Spain 4-0. I expect the Spain score to come around as we see some of the other Spanish players get their games in. France 4 versus the USA's 0. Poland 3 versus Wales 1, and Canada 6, England 6. So the Canada-England score is neck and neck after 3 games in that particular matchup. The France, US, the Poland, Wales, and the Hungary, Spain are only 1 game in each. And you work out the score that each team scores by the secondary points scored by that player. So you can see here that Kuchiafati, as his name is on stats, Dini, got a crushing win with his Targaryens over Spanish's Aaron Cifuentes with his Free Folk. So that means that it's a crushing win. So it's a 4-0 win. So it'd be 4 points to Hungary, 0 to Spain. So that's how it works, if people wonder. So was it 4-0 to France over the US? Would have been 1 crushing win. 3-1 to Poland over Wales would have been a standard victory for Poland over Wales. So if anyone does wonder how the points are scored, that's how it works. But yeah, we'll be following along with that. There isn't really much to talk about so far. We're very few games in. If anyone does want to watch my game against Abiscius, which I did end up losing after I made a very critical error on round 3, running Greyjoys into Harmonella, it's on Abiscius's Twitch channel. If you just type in Abiscius Hobby and Gaming, I think it's called. Honestly, can't remember for the life of me. Now that this is a problem. If I'm asked to go and actually retrieve this information, yeah, it is Abiscius Hobby and Gaming. Type that into Twitch. You'll find his streams there, and you can check out all of his other streams. He also puts them on YouTube, I believe, as well. I may have misremembered that, but I'm fairly sure he does. Cool. So that's the TTS Song Championships. We'll see how the Team Championship kind of smashes out. There's a lot of games still to go in round 1. We're only started up this weekend. But yeah, that's one event. We've also had the now I think it's coming to an end. Where are we? Can't find it. Oh wow, it's so far back. This is just the current tournament list. There we go. Tournaments that either haven't been locked up or aren't finished yet. We've got this is the Welcome to 2023, the 43-player online event, which I now believe is down to its last round, and we've got the only 2 undefeated players Tom Tyler and Brett, who are due to face off at some time this week, I believe. And if I'm right, I mean, Tom Tyler's in a voice channel right now. He may be playing one of his matches soon. But yeah, those are the two players in contention to win the event. So hopefully, I'm going to be rooting for my boy Tom Tyler. Are you going to be rooting for Brett if you have the opportunity to?
No.
Good man, love it.
Sorry, Brett, but you're playing John. I can't root for John.
Yeah,
I hate John more than I love Brett.
That's fair enough. So yeah, John versus Free Folk, Tom Tyler's Free Folk. We also saw
I'm sure
on the note
Carlo's loving that.
Yeah, I know,
John,
right? John. It's actually funny that we mentioned John because there was another event this weekend, which is the first of the circuit series that Carlo is running in prep for the Invitational this year. Carlo has confirmed that the first Invitational spot will be going to myself for winning last year's Invitational, and the second slot will be going to the winner, I believe, of the circuit and the circuit series. So each of the circuit events will gain one-person entry. So we see the first circuit event win, and the first circuit was won by Mark Pocock, Marky Mark as he's known, with 6 wins out of 6 in a 12-man event, running Night's Watch, and he ran John, I believe, all but one game. Yeah, he ran the Benjamin Stark in one game against a Martell player. But yeah, ran a lot of John and came away with a lot of wins. Yeah, I don't have many words for that really. It is just what it is, you know.
Yeah, and it looks like another Night's Watch has John, so it's always encouraging.
To be fair, this John player did have John and Benjamin, right? He did have.
No,
Benjamin,
yeah, I'm seeing that one now. Yeah.
So, John Benjamin in Night's Watch, and he did run the Benjamin list at least in one game at least. So that's fair. But I mean, it's very interesting. This is a really interesting breakdown of commanders. If anyone's interested, you see Night's Watch, Lannister, Greyjoy, Stark, Targ, Martell, Stark, Targ, Baratheon. That is a real odd faction split. Specifically, no free folk. Now, no neutrals you'd kind of expect. Only one Lannister. Only one Greyjoy. Only one Baratheon. Now, it is only a 12-man event. But to have overwhelmingly large numbers of Stark and Martell, with Targs coming in as the third place faction and no free folk whatsoever, which a lot of people might look at that list of players and go, but some of them play free folk. I think a lot of the good players in the UK have migrated away from playing free folk. So yeah, Mark's saying he should have run the Benjamin list in his last game as well. Fair enough. But coming away with 6 wins. 6 wins with Night's Watch is still good going. And beating, the skill players of the skill average of the players there was quite high, 1665 average player event. And Mark coming down with wins against good players, including the likes of Jacob, who he beat by just 1 point, but it was a wipeout. Beat Kjo, is an up-and-coming Lannister player in the UK, wipeout as well, and he also went on to beat Dean, another strong player running his Targs. So yeah, well played to Mark, and yeah, I'll probably play against him in the Invitational at this rate. Whoop whoop, Invitational hype, but that's for a long way away from now. But yeah, that was the other event. There was also the other one in the UK, which was the Conquest of Swindon, which I believe had roughly similar numbers in Swindon in the UK, and that was won, I believe, by Steve Butler, I think. My good old man, Steve Butler. I'm going to have to check now, because if it is, he'll kill me if I don't mention it on the show. And I can't find it. Of course I can't find it now that I'm actually looking for it. Reminder to myself, always look for these things before the show starts, not after the show starts. Who would do prep before a show? Low quality budgeting. That's what that is. But yeah, I'll just double check for the Conquest of Swindon. But yeah, so quite a few like certainly smaller events happening up, but kind of events that are impactful and important, right? Sometimes a week of events where you haven't got many big events is just as important because of what it means for the game and what it means for the players, basically. So yeah, it's an important one. Oh, they didn't close it. Damn. Right.
I think when you look at just even the number of tournaments is a better.
Yes.
I think both are important to see, the larger events and how many max players you can get in one single event. But a lot of these smaller events that you see happening have a lot of, if you're talking about all of the players in them, there's a significant amount of them that would never have gone to the big event.
Yes.
So this is a more, a better way to count how many players are actively playing every week in tournaments. When you're talking about like local events and smaller events that they don't have to like commit off time from work, and especially if it requires like a badge to get in, for like a convention and whatnot.
Definitely, yeah. The price point of some conventions or like events locked behind conventions is savage. We talked about Gen Con and other events where it's like £50 for entry or something like that. It is prohibitively expensive for some players, and it's not a major expense, but it's like it just adds to the pile of expenditures, and that's not including if it's a major event. More likely hotel prices being expensive and things like that.
Yep, yeah. And travel, food. Not to mention if like you literally have no other desire but to play Ice and Fire, then that $50 for your badge is literally just an extra tax to your entry. Because other people might be doing it to. I would say most people, but are doing it to see their friends, to from other games even, or even doing other events. They want to go to the vendor hall, a lot of things. But there are a handful of people that like, I'm only going because I wanted to play in this tournament and for no other reason. So especially if you're only playing in one tournament, now you're basically paying, let's say if it's 50 for the badge, for like a 1 day, and then now you're paying like 20, 30 for the entry. You're looking at like $70-$80 to just play in one tournament.
Yes.
And doesn't provide food or any of that stuff.
And potentially, certainly with these larger convention events, which is again one of the things that we really don't like with top cuts, when we've mentioned it before, is that if you're just paying that only to play one round of games, potentially on 1 day, that might only be like 3 games for that cost, or 3 or 4 games, and that's very expensive actually. And you might not make it to the second day, and there's all kinds of other issues like that, and that is an expense that is not good for a player to have to bear, just with the off chance of
that's why, especially Depsicon, but I'll do it for Gen Con too, is if I'm going, I'm taking a little time off and I'm going every day that it's open to really make the most of the badge and my time. So
it's experience the event, right? Rather than
sometimes it can be a little hectic, playing in a tournament every single day, because that's what I did at every Adepticon so far. I've never missed a single Adepticon tournament, and same with Gen Con. I went to every single event on every day, so it can be a lot, day after day, especially you're waking up early, going to bed late, and then just nonstop gaming.
Which is, yeah, takes a toll, definitely. All right then. So, we're nearly coming to the end, aren't we? We're nearly coming to the end today. Talked a lot about various different stuff, but it wouldn't be. I guess a random piece of news. If anyone, I guess I forgot to mention this. For those of you, I can't remember if I mentioned it last week. But 3 Sales Gaming has now stopped content for A Song of Ice and Fire. For those of you who were wondering where that has been, the 3 Sales Gaming and George has now stopped A Song of Ice and Fire content, and he will probably not be releasing any further content for it. That's not necessarily news. It's been like that for a while. But Grant with YeCats Minis is going to be bringing stuff out. He's been doing a lot of groundwork and prep for some content, so do watch out for Grant's content coming out soon on YeCats Minis. It would be a mixture of painting content and also content around kind of like tactics or stuff like that. He's hoping to make a big bang and fill the void of kind of beginner-friendly content that is kind of currently missing from the game right now. So just be aware of that. The other thing, the other piece of news is that we do have the Days of Ice and Fire. Yes, it was cancelled. It was due to be in April, but it was cancelled due to poor ticket sales of not actually necessarily the song events, but the other events that were going to be present at the event. The other panels and things, but there is going to now be a replacement at Games Centre in May, where they're going to have a regional A Song of Ice and Fire event, and also a board type panel of Michael Chanel, I believe, and Fabio. I don't know if Fabio's going to be there. I think he's meant to be, but certainly Michael Chanel and other guests talking about the game and the future. So that's happening in May. So we can probably expect, if anyone is interested, information coming out for the game around May. Now, the reason I mention this is it did come up this other week. Basically, people were saying, like, we don't know of anything coming up. Like, we don't know of what the next thing to be released is. It's most likely going to be revealed and discussed at the Super Regional on the 19th of May through to the 21st. Okay. Cool. Does that? Yeah. I think that should resolve people's queries. I don't actually know if you can buy tickets to that event yet. I think they have not put the tickets on sale just yet. You can find it on the website. Oh no, hang on. You probably can buy tickets. I just haven't clicked on the little bit that said here. Yeah. So there's going to be that event running on that weekend, 19th to the 21st. All right then. There's one more thing before we do, right? One more thing before we start to wrap up, and that is preparing the best part of the week. We've already looked at quite a few painting today, right, Dave? And we've already looked at a few zeros, strong zeros, contenders. But where would we be without an actual entry into our painting for the week? Have a look at those Cranigman trackers, not trappers. What do you reckon to those?
Needing to catch up.
That's all right, don't worry. I'll let them load up on your end. Just while I'm waiting on that, Dustin says hoping for some news coming out of Gamma like last year. Yes, we may or may not get news out of Gamma. Simon are doing a panel at Gamma, but I actually don't know when was Gamma. When is Gamma? It's soon, right? 24th to the 27th of April. So we may find out on the 24th to the 27th of April about some stuff coming up at Gamma. Simon are present at Gamma. They may or may not release some information there. So, hopefully you'll find some new sculpts and maybe there's any new stuff coming out of Gamma at that time. Yes.
Yeah, they look pretty awesome. I love the contrast between the red and the blue.
Mhm.
I think it's they're both kind of like an off red and off blue.
Mhm.
So it kind of adds to, it doesn't make them. I like how it makes them kind of a lot more subtle.
Mhm. Dan in chat, they've got red on them. That's his high-level analysis right there. And because he's a Stark player himself, he will be like, they've got red on them. That makes them bad because they're Lannisters. That'll be his take on it. No, I really like them. You'll never guess who these are from, and by that I mean you'll probably definitely guess who these are from. Who's a renowned player who sends us painting and plays Starks?
Brett, right? Totally.
No.
I'm joking. Luke.
Luke, indeed, these are Luke's. I've just noticed as well. You don't really. The other picture didn't give him justice. No, because he's in the background. You seen this guy in the front left? And this second picture here, he's got like a tattoo across his head. Looks like, or war paint or something. I really like that. Just noticed that there. I'm starting to get very used to seeing the stuff that Luke makes and noticing his style. I think I can spot his style now in a lot of the painting that we see. So I will have to go back into the archives, but I reckon I could probably spot Luke Hartman produced miniature now, painted miniature, seeing his signature style. Yeah. No, very good, very good. I am going to give them a strong 0 on behalf of Carlo, who will say that they are thematic. They've got the stakes in the ground. That's brilliant. They've got all the hallmarks to make them 0, and no rocks, which means that flat terrain, no rocks, no hero poses, none of that. Very, very strong 0. None of these weak zeros with hero rocks and poses. And I actually originally said to Luke that it's a strong 0 because there's also no elves. After his conversion of his Dothraki. Cool. Awesome stuff. Right then. Should we run through the tournaments coming up this week?
I don't see why not.
Last week, you didn't back the US. You moved away from your roots and you guessed, I think it was Poland, I think, in the end. Or Spain. Can't remember which one it was. No, it may have been the UK. I can't remember.
Germany.
It was Germany. Germany, that was it. You backed Germany. And Germany was a good shout, actually, last week. But this week, go on. What do you reckon? Who's going to be the most? Who's going to be our winner this week?
Let's see. Future tournaments. Where does it end?
You can't count them before I ask you.
No. I was just to see which ones I have options from. I'm gonna say so hard to see some of these.
Just take a punt. Just take a punt. It doesn't matter if you're right or wrong.
Let's do. Why not? Let's say the France.
France. Okay, he's gone for France. All right. So we have got. Hello, Hobbit. That'll be Mizatide. Ben, I believe, tuning in. We've got Bolter in Podvale in Wroclaw, so the Bolter group doing another event in Poland. We've got an event in Russia with a lot of Russian that I can't read, but it has got the word Warhammer in it, which I can read. That's in Russia somewhere. We've got an event in Poznan, in Wargaming Poznan, doing another 30-point event by the looks of it. We have got the Conquerors of the North in Suomi, so that'll be Finland, right? Suomi is Finland. FGB running their events in Poland as well. I mean, this is like 3 Polish events. Poland literally have every other event. It keeps going. Oh wow. Tourney of the Hand, another event in Russia. Again, I do apologize. I can't read Cyrillic. We've got another event by the Skeppel Group in Katowice in Poland. We've got Board and Brum running an event. That's the Board and Brum is the Boards and Swords. No, Board and Brum is not Boards and Swords. Board and Brum is a different place. I always get the two confused. It's really bad. Board and Brum is the Midlands Gaming Centre, in Walsall, and I know that's where Kyle games mostly. So that's happening this weekend as well. We've got a game called Random Storm, called Wargamer Radom in Radom, Poland. I've never heard of this place, but it's another Polish place. Poland, like. It's nuts. We've got an event in it's the Quebec. That'll be the Grand Clash. Is this weekend? The Canadian Nationals. Oh, I read the address before reading the name of the event there. That was really bad. Yeah, it's the Canadian Nationals this week, which is looking to be really exciting. Let's have a little dive into that actually. We've got how long is that? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Hang on. Let's do. I can't do a search actually. That's really bad. Actually, I can do a search. 57 divided by 3, 19. Cool. 19 players signed up for it so far, which is fantastic to see. 19 players. Wow. That's brilliant. So that could be looking at more like 20 players by the time the weekend runs around. And a 20-player Canadian event is a big Canadian event, so that's awesome to see. I'm going to be checking out that one this week and see how that one comes out. And if I'm rooting for anybody, who's it going to be? Who's a name on there that I recognise and/or? I've got to root for my boy Ariakis or Online, haven't I? My boys. Yeah. Oh, Sean though. Sean Emberley. He's been making a lot of forays down into the US with his free folk, hasn't he?
Yeah.
He might be a good shout in tipping for a win. Good old Sean. But no.
Did you guys ever talk about the debacle with the Depticon with
yes.
Or sorry, Gen Con?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And the mess up of the results that end up meaning that he ended up like not knowing he was playing, and had to contact him afterwards, right?
Well, and it didn't. No one even caught. No one caught it except for me, and I stayed like 30 minutes after everyone left. Like, I wouldn't say like outright like arguing with like the high ups, but I'm like, look, I'm trying to like break it down and explain to them why it is supposed to be this way. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, it's, and finally they're like, okay, it makes sense. And I'm like, all right, well, now that everyone's gone, is there any way? Yeah. And fortunately I brought, just in case, because I was the bubble. Mm-hmm. And for those that don't know what the bubble is just the place right before qualifying for the top cut. So I was like, I think it was top 16. So I was like 17th place. So I brought all of my free folk the next day, even though I didn't qualify, just in case. Because sometimes if someone doesn't show up or someone doesn't want to play, they're not just going to give a free win. A lot of the times they're going to make the bubble fill the slot. Anyway, so I brought it just in case. Thankfully I did, because he didn't get all the messages until that morning, and didn't bring any of his stuff. So I was like, well, here you go. Nice. I put together his 2 lists and let him use all my stuff while I went and hung out with Fabio. And so.
Yeah. Well, good on you. And I'm glad it got resolved as well. But yeah, Sean's been making those forays. So Sean, Ariakis are in line for me, certainly. To see who pulls down the win, we'll have to see, I guess. Bartolomid, I have not pronounced that name even correctly. I'm going to try that again. Bartolomage. Bartlomeij, that's probably terrible. I do apologise. Has joining us from Poland, saying Poland strong. Yeah, Poland's pretty strong. We've got the Lone Wolf GT happening this weekend as well, down in Fort Worth, Texas. Is this the? This is not the FLG event, right? This is just the GT prior to it.
I think
Or is
so.
Or is this the FLG event? I don't know.
Which
No,
one
this is an
are you
event.
on?
Yeah, this is the Lone Star GT. The Lone Star Open is the Lone Wolf GT is a separate event from the Lone Star Open, which is the FLG event. Yeah, very confusing. Same kind of names, but not the same place. So yeah, that's the Lone Wolf GT happening in Fort Worth, Texas. We've also got an event happening in Lexington, Kentucky. Lexicon there as well. The North American Invitational, yeah. So there's a North American only TTS event starting up. And that is going ahead this weekend. I believe Cyrus has been trying to get people to sign up for that. So if you are in the US and looking to play TTS events and TTS online events and tournaments, sign yourself up to the Invitational and get some games in. We've got another event in Russia. The Battle for White Harbor, that's the guys from Rotterdam White Scars running their event. That's happening this weekend as well. We've also got Tron Ludique the 6th. That's an event happening in Belgium, in Mons, which is good to see there. Another event happening in Germany, and another event, the Chelmsford Bunker Season 2 April monthly event that they've got running over in the UK. In Chelmsford. We've also got another event happening in Overland Park, Kansas City. So hopefully that one goes well, and good luck to Bersarius and the guys playing over there. We've got another event, but that's next week, so who cares about that one? So, what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 events happening this weekend. Have I counted that right? That doesn't seem right. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh, Christ, it is 19 events happening this weekend. And Poland is the winner. Poland got like 5 or 6 of those. It's nuts. So, yeah, obviously, massively kudos to the Polish players. And 19 events in one weekend is doing fantastic. Miniature Market's doing a multi-week double elimination tournament. Cool. Get it on stats so we can see how people are doing, and we can see the games and get that publicity. It's really hopefully what people see from it. Bartolomeji says means battle for Dragonstone. So Beta o Smodska Skali. Battle for Dragonstone. My Polish pronunciation is terrible, but thank you very much for giving me that translation. Hecton saying the community is really healthy right now, and you love to see it. Yeah, it is. It is. The community is really healthy, and this is the number that's actually nuts healthy, right? We're getting nearly 20 tournaments a week on average. It's probably closer. Actually, average is probably about 15, right? But we're getting nearly 20 tournaments a week now on the stats page. Just from a quick Control F, we can see that there are 108 tournaments currently planned in, right? Bigger ones, obviously, you're looking further ahead. But a lot of these, like, I'm like halfway up the page here, and I'm only in May, right? There are a lot of events happening between now and just, the 15th of May, the 14th, 15th of May. It's nuts. It is absolutely nuts. The level of events that people are planning in and looking to have and looking to go to. There's lots of options, and you look further afield at some of the larger ones planned for the year. Some of them, the ones that require a hell of a lot more planning for things like the UK GT, the national events that we expect to see, the much larger events, the likes of Gen Con, those things as well. Or not Gen Con this year, but it'll be nationals in the US, of course. But yeah, fantastic to see. Fantastic to see community and player base growing and playing games. And keep it up. Keep it up, guys. So yeah. Jim Nibbles, is it possible to set up tournaments with different formats on the stats page? I mean, yes, the stats page does allow for manual pairing, Jim. So you can do a manual pairing and pair people yourself on the stats page. So you would like randomly generate a pairing or whatever, and then if you wanted to do the next pairing based on like seeding or anything like that, that exists. You don't have double elimination in the standardized way, but you could certainly do it through a top cut style thing that we have. Like, so we have a top 16 or a top 8 functionality on the site at the moment. In the new rebuild that Carlo is making, there will be more options to change that. But yeah, cool. Well, Dave, thank you very much for joining us yet again.
Of course.
This may be your last time for a while, right? Are you back on work next week, or?
Yeah, starting next week. Well, technically starting this week. I work Monday, Thursdays, so I'll probably be back on Thursday, and then back to my Monday, Thursday.
Fair enough. And I wish you all the best with the kid and, of course, work and getting life. I mean, you're on child 5 now, right? You're experienced at this. You know what you're doing.
Yeah, I would hope so.
The others aren't dead yet, so you've done a good job. You've got a good enough job to keep them alive, so that's the important bit, right?
Yeah. Just barely afloat, but not ever, sailing away. Just on a piece of driftwood.
longing for that break. No, it'll be. Well, I wish you all the best with everything as well. And I will, of course, catch up with you outside of the show. And thanks again for coming on. Is there any last words, any last comments you wanted to make yourself?
Nope. I think just shout out to all the content creators again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very much so. And there's always more joining every week. And I've been sent this last thing that I'll show up just before I say goodbyes to everybody. This is a picture of Dan. Not Dan. This isn't Dan. This is a picture of Dan's Crowdingman trackers, which he's got a nice little crocodile on the base there that he really wanted to show off to people. So there you go, Dan. There's a 0 for you, buddy. Actually, no, you're not even worth a 0. -1. I'll play a game with him on Friday, and he'll shout at me for giving him a bad score. But yeah, thank you very much for everyone tuning in. Thank you for those who are playing events, playing in tournaments, playing games, just in generally enjoying the game and sticking with it. I'll be back next week with maybe not a guest, maybe I'll do one of my rambling videos talking about something. And I've got kind of like a list of stuff that I am going to potentially show you guys, including a new community challenge that I'm going to set myself around units that are basically unplayed that people believe I should build a list around and try and win games with. So I've got a few things on the list like Mormont Bruisers, Golden Company War Elephants, Sentinels. Someone said Builder Scorpions before, and I don't believe that for 1 minute, but hey, they're on the list. So if you've got any ideas for next week, do bring them along, and I will start building some lists talking about how I think that they should work and how I would use them. And then I'll try and actually go away and play those lists, record a game, and that way you can see, did the theory work, or was I talking out of my arsehole? So yeah, we'll see how that all pans out. Anyway, Mountains Men. All Mountains Men all the time. Yes, Evan. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, for tuning in yet again. I will see you next week. Have a good one. Enjoy your games this week. Take it easy.
Ready? Aim!
There's too many!
Anyone see my mammoth?
Stop me!